Hello, David Paul here. Well, am I pushing my luck with the light level here? Because it's, I don't know what time it is, it's nearly 5 o'clock and it really starts to get dark quickly. If you look through the trees there, you will see that the sea is over there. So we got a really good view of the sea from here, especially when I clear some of those trees, chop them down and clear some of the undergrowth perhaps, because not all of that land down there is mine. Anyway, what I wanted to do is, this is the second part of a shorty video when I was introducing you to my workers there. This is the final layout of the house. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you will have noted that I was intending to make it like a Star of David. That's the support structure. That's not the shape of the house, that's just the underlying support structure. So I have to explain what happened here. The idea is that these pieces of wood here would be mitered together, these sharp edges, and they would stand on their edge and they'd be mitered together and everything would be great. And that's a great idea, yeah. But here's the problem. A long while ago, well, not a long while ago, just a few months ago, I watched a video on YouTube, and I don't know why it came up for me, but it popped up and it said the shortcomings of I-beams or something like that. So in other words, a beam which is side on and is narrower than it is deep, it has a tendency to tip over, and it can sort of do like that. It can curve and tip over. The damn things, under any stress or imbalance, unless they're bolted solidly into place, are always wanting to tip themselves over. So what we did, myself, Alan and his friend there, this morning we came up here and we had to lay two beams there, which cross there, across each other, but edge on. And lo and behold, at least I had to knock a tree down, and then sure enough it disturbed them, and then they flipped over in a line on the side. I was using what I call to them a lansang, which is means just a nail. And the nail is a piece of rebar shoved through, because I can't find any bolts here in Davao just yet, although I have found a company that's called Bolts, so I guess they sell bolts. Okay, so where do we go with this then? Then what happened next is that became problematic, and then we're trying to fix other things together, and we got those over in that corner, and that was getting problematic as well. Despite having my apparatus here, I seem to be getting attacked by lamok mosquitoes. That's not good. I better bring it close, or be closer to it. Okay, so that was problematic, and it tipped over and it bent, and I'm seriously unimpressed with rebar. It makes me ask questions about my house in Portugal, whether that's going to be okay with those two reinforced concrete beams, three that I put in. I have to think about that. Okay, so what was happening is the rebar was bending with the least amount of strain at all. And I can even bend rebar myself with my bare hands, so that's not a good sign. It's desirable if you want to bend some rebar, but it's worrying, you know, in terms of construction. So I'm not up for that stuff now. So what happened was, the very first over there, the first coconut tree that I felled, I decided that the level, the ta'as, the top, if you like, of the entire site is going to be this stone. This is as high as I can stand in here on a natural object on top of this stone and view the scenery. So I thought, if I build a house which is at the level of this stone, that's as high as I can get without artificial means, without jacking up any further. So I put my laser level on this, and I referenced it to that tree over there. I cut the tree down, then I cut off the top to level it, with the chainsaw. Getting rather adept with the chainsaw now. So got that level. So these 2 points are now level. Then Alan and his friend and myself, we cut another tree down, and it was here. So I cut it down, and I made that one level with that, thinking we'll use it temporarily. And lo and behold, it's just perfectly aligned in order to be a support for the house. So I've now got two things which are aligned perfectly for the house. So then we go over to the other side and we find this tugas tree. Tugas is what you would call Molavi. It's rock hard. It's really hard, good wood. There's a superstition about tugas which is a bit creepy. They say that you should not use it for things which are stationary. You should only use it for moving things. So you can make a chair, but not build a house out of it, or make a boat, because a boat moves, you know, and things like that. So anyway, we shouldn't pay any attention to that, but it's just an interesting superstition, which I find a bit creepy. I don't know why. My brother-in-law told me it. So anyway, it so happens that that just perfectly aligns yet again with the location of one of the beams. So I've now got one location there, and one location here. So that is now your basic initial triangle. So as I said, the idea of like the pool table with the apparatus for leveling the for squaring up all the balls. So you got one of them already laid there. So now what we do is we lay the next one in opposition to it, so as to make this Star of David structure. Now we're doing all this, and it's just getting worse and worse, and the guys are getting tired. You know what I mean? This is hard work in a stinking heat, and I've got an idea about the physical limits, and I don't want to push them into an unsafe working sort of tiredness. So I looked at the situation and I thought, somebody's going to get hurt here. Time for a rethink. So what I decided is I was going to flip them onto their sides. So these things will never have a tendency now to fall over. So they're flat, and they're not going to like suddenly erect themselves. And they're not going to fall over, and they're safe. But the consequence of that, no, I was trying to explain, and I hadn't thought it through, but I'll talk it through slowly in this with the example of the house. As a consequence of lying the beams on their side, they're no longer as stiff, and you can see they're twanging about. I can walk up and down and they're perfectly safe and strong enough, but I'm going to have a bouncy house. So what shall we do about this? Well, the solution is simple. That thing's making me cough, so that's good. It means it's smoking around me and scaring the mosquitoes off. I'll put up with the cough. Okay, so what we've done is we halved the beam thickness. Okay, we've halved the beam thickness. If you half the beam thickness, it becomes 1/8. So this is a ratio of squared, you know, so it's 1/8 as stiff. Okay, my God, that's why it's so bouncy, because it's 1/8 as stiff. But hang on, that would only be true if you were to make it a 3" by 3" beam. So it's as if you'd taken a beam and sawed it down the middle and turned it into a 3 by 3. So that would be 1/8. But we haven't done that because we laid it on its side, so it's twice as thick. So instead of 3 by 3, it's now 6 by 3. So that means it's not 1/8 of thick, it's now 2 times an 8, which is a quarter. So it's a quarter as stiff. But I can't do these numbers in my head while I'm talking, but if I put a supporting beam in here, what I'm then doing is it would be better to take the quarter, so a quarter would be like, say if it was 2, yeah, 2, say if the value of stiffness was 2 units of something, right? 2 units of something. But by putting a beam, a supporting post in the middle, so that's going to go up by a factor of squared. So it's 2 times 2, so it's 4 times 2, 2 is a 4, so we're back to 4, the strength of 4. So we're not doing too bad. We're not all the way. Yes, I think we are. I think the maths of that works out. So that restores our situation of stiffness, and the thing becomes as stiff as it was. I'm going to have to sit down with a pencil and paper and work it out, because these are thirds, okay? These sections here, and I won't actually put the support in the center as a singular support. I'll put 2 extra ones in here, which will now make it even stiffer. So all of a sudden, the whole damn thing's going to be a lot stiffer with more supports in. And there's no way around that. I have to have these supports in, because you know, it's got to support the floor, and I don't want to be walking around and the floor's dancing around like a trampoline. And it'll work out fine. And if it doesn't work out fine, I'll put more supports in, or I'll put more cross beaming. Bear in mind also, in fact, actually, I will probably end up in a situation where the whole damn thing is stiffer than when I started, because as you can see, by lying these triangles on top of each other, there's an irregularity here. This is the floor level, and this is the triangle which is underneath. So how do we get around that? Well, what I got to do is I got to put a beam in across here, which fills that space. Now, of course, putting that beam in immediately doubles the stiffness yet again, and I will bolt it through, and it will become an integral thing, and it will be well held together. Once this is all bolted, it's going to be very, very, very solid, and that's it. So I'm absolutely delighted. We were having a beer before to celebrate this, because this is a milestone. It might not seem much, but you got to bear in mind these. I'll work it out one day, but God knows what these damn things weigh. I'll do a calculation on each of the beams, but we're lifting these, or rather they are mostly lifting these things into place, and it's a swine of a job. We had to take them all the way down. They had to be like hand carried by 3 men all the way up here to this site on the top of the hill. Then they've had to be put on top of each other, and so on. Now all I have to do is see to it that they don't move. So by what means am I going to do that? Well, by means of, I will simply through drill these. When I've purchased some bolts in Davao, I will through drill them, and I'll put a 10mm bolt and a nut on the end, and that's locked. And I'll do the other one, and the other one, and the other one. Then these parts here, I will bolt these. Well, I'll probably bolt the middle one second, and then the corners last, and that's that. This brings about a little discrepancy, which I think I can resolve. Yes, wow, that's very fortunate. There's a problem here, because what happens is, as a consequence of lying them on their side, this beautiful chamfer, which the guy did for me with a chainsaw, these miters are no longer necessary, so they're going to get chopped off or whatever. But it turns out that it's going point to point. We are still going to have the same, the triangle will still be the same outreach size, and that's what's important, because I want the maximum outreach size to create the house. So what will come next on top of that is in these center parts where this beam is below these ones, I will put some cross beams over here as well as the filler beam in here. I'll put some cross beams over going that way, cross beams going this way, and somehow the other way. One, no, that will do it. I'll be able to put cross beams in there to cover that space at the same level of the top of the floor. And the reason that's necessary is because all that area also has to have floorboards in it. Now underneath the house, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Underneath the house is an old digging for the people have been digging for lime and extracting lime from there in order to make homemade cement. It works. Tedious, I tell you what, man, that's a tedious job. But as a consequence, they're going to create that cave-like thing. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to possibly utilize it in future for something, I don't know what. Possibly just a tool store, an incredibly secure store, or even putting a water tank down there. That would be a very good place to hide one of these best tanks. Unsightly thing, get it out of the way. Although I'd have to kind of slide it in. I don't know yet. Hindi ko pa alam. I do not know yet. Now, the points. What is the point of the point? Some of these points seem narrower than other points. It's concerning, but it's, you know, to be fair, the ends are not lined up, so why not? Why should they be perfect? So, what you have is a Star of David, and then I will fit some kind of structure in here to fill this area for floorboards, and I will also around the periphery probably I think I will put a circular wall which encompasses all points and circles all the apexes of all these points on the Star of David thing. And that is basically going to be some kind of a yurt structure. In order, it'll be quite thick woods, which will be, they allow themselves to be bent over if they're standing, if they're standing like that, they're not going to allow themselves to be bent horizontal. If they're standing like that, yes, they'll follow like round like a barrel. And in between there's a position around about 60 degrees, I think, at which they will bend and they'll comply and they'll go around in a circle. So the idea is to use 1 inch by 2 inch pieces to do that and create this hatch sort of structure upon which all of the cladding will hang. And I say hang because they're going to be just put on like a picture frame. Each one will just clip on as you go round. So that creates your circular structure. A lot of complexity with putting this floor in. It's I got a lot more planning to do. So I do that when it's stinking hot in the middle of the day and I can't work. I just put the fan on, lie down and just think. On the roof above, it will be singly pitched, a single pitched roof, despite the fact that it's not a regular rectangle or square. I'm having to swap lamok here. It's mosquitoes, I don't know why that's happening. I think I'm too far from the smoker. So anyway, the roof is going to be made up of pieces which are connected together, bolted together rather than like in a chain like structure. So you will have 3 pieces of 4x2 connected together, and in the middle that will form like a mitre, not a mitre, a mortise and tenon joint for anything I want to create. So you'll have 3 boards side by side bolted through, and wherever you want to make a connection, you simply go through there, put your piece through it, and then on either side it's short, so that takes the compression, and this just locates it, and you can through bolt it. So now you're going to end up with a beam which is 4 inches deep but 6 inches wide. That will have no tendency to tip over whatsoever. I could do them 6 inches by 2, and then that would give you a beam which is 6 inches by 6 inches. Under consideration. I'll think about that. I'm not sure. I'm rather convinced by the Americans and their construction methods, because they are building houses and have been building houses for hundreds of years using this 4x2 method. And I know the Japanese are wonderful and they create these great houses, and so do the Koreans, and they do this masterful woodwork and they're joining beams together and everything. If I start getting too much into that stuff, I'll be taking 100 years to build this house, by which time the termites will have eaten it. So, not a lot of traffic here. That noise, there's a motorcycle going by. Very little noise here. That's not really representative. It's quite quiet here. Okay, so that's the first house. Over there towards the sea will be nothing. We have to leave the view clear. There'll be a terrace out there, decking that you can walk on. But over there, this here is just like land that you can't do anything with. Well, land without a view, put it that way. But to be honest, even the view over there is nice. If you're looking out of a window at palm trees, it's still nice, and you can plant some flowers or something. But the big tamale is that view of the sea. So this is the opportunity to put stuff here that is not that important. So probably over there I will put the cucina, the kitchen, which will be separate from the house. As I might have said in previous videos, the policy is to get bathing and cooking out of the house so that you're not bringing in moisture and heat, and you're keeping the house cool and dry. It's under consideration whether I ever put any, if I put any aircon in here. I don't really want to do that. I would really like to get this place solar powered, but you know, we have to be realistic. Most of the time I'm not here, and these homesteady type ideas, you know, they require maintenance to function and so on. So scanning around, looking over Scotland, the minute so you've got the cucina, the kitchen, and possibly the toilet over there. Now over here, you want to create that treehouse effect. Well, we already have the treehouse effect. As I said, a treehouse that's not in the trees, it's just connected, because we're going to have the trees at every corner as supports, which the house will eventually bolt into, but it'll not be up in the trees, it'll just be there. Maybe I'll jack it up a couple of feet using car jacks. The car jack will lift 19 tons, and it's only doing the corner, and then you jack the other one up and so on. You just keep going. So if I progress in this direction, what immediately happens is you get an odd perspective on the world, because you are on top of a hill, and I did a video on a Portugal place. I said a beautiful piece of land for sale, which I would still like to buy, and that's hilly. So when you progress towards the side of the hill, you create an impression of height. Well, it's not an impression of height, it's literally height, without having to actually go up in terms of on top of trees high up, you know, although I can do that. And so it gives you that treehouse feel, you know, that people like, and and it also, by the elevation, gives you better airflow through. These are new coconut trees, which obviously I'll not be chopping them down, but amongst them there are old ones. Like this one is really old. I'm going to have to take that one down because it's a threat to my house if it gets old and falls on the house. And also it's non-productive, it's not doing anything. But as you can see, if you look up that tree, it's pretty much straight as a die. So if you want long straight pieces of timber, cocoa lumber unfortunately is the baby for you. And all the rest of them, all the other kinds of trees just don't, they really don't cut the mustard, you know. It's a real shame that I just can't get straight timber. It's something I've got to allow for in my projects. I'm working with broadleaf trees, and they wander around like this, you know. Whereas, you know, these cowboys in their log cabins and whatnot, they're using things like pine trees and stuff, and that's nowhere near the problem this is. I think I'm losing the light now. So quite a messy place this now. Trees I've chopped down today. That tree over there. This is the Tugas, the Malawi. That will not be wasted. I'll chop that up and utilize that for some kind of probably furniture project or something like that. You know, at the worst you can chop slices of things and use them as beer mats, you know. But I hate the idea of wasting good wood. That's taken years to grow that, and it's probably got a nice figure inside of it. Anything else? No, wala na tapos. Have a scan around. Look at the contrast of this to Portugal, eh? Portugal is a lot less problematic than this place. I already own the house, I own the land. This land has to be sort of proxy owned by my daughters. So that's like a bit problematical. And if I marry again, I'm going to have a wife who doesn't own the land of the house that she lives on. Well, that's a problem. I have a tree over there, and that's a mahogany. These are mahogany trees, and they're a damn nuisance, and they're no use for anyone, and not for this site, because they're not eco-friendly, and I want to have butterflies and all kinds of stuff. And down there, I hope, if possible, God willing, because this is a big project, I'd like to put a swimming pool there. But it's not expensive. What's expensive is all the labour and digging and stuff, you know, because it's going to take, I'm not going to be able to get a digger or anything in here. It's going to be men digging, you know, with picks, with drills and stuff. And I pay the workers the national minimum wage, which is 400, but what I pay them per day is 500 pesos, 25% higher, and on top of that, they don't really work very long. I mean, we'll be at it about 3 hours and then quit, and then go and drink beer, and get the beer free as well. So they like working for me. My sister-in-law says I should get them to do more work, and to hell with it. I mean, it's enough, you know. They do enough for me. Without the assistance of these guys, I would never have this thing off the ground. Or if I did, it would be a damn sight smaller cabin, which maybe I should have done in the first place anyway. But here we are. We are where we are. Nice birds singing. I don't know what it is, but it's got that jungle feel. Sing again, bird. Okay. Atilago, makita tayo sa kana. See you later. Jesus be with you.